Everyone, hello everybody, welcome and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Thlologelo Promise Rampa and I go by both names. You just pick one that works for you. I'm all good. And for those of you who are my returning subscribers, oh guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support, the comments, the likes, everything. Even those who are messaging me, thank you so much, guys. It means a lot to me. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about something very important: money. The money that you're going to need for this relocation journey. In my previous video, I did say 3 very important things that you're going to need for relocating without an agent. Whether you're going to be using an agent or not, same applies. You're going to need money, you're going to need time, and you're going to need yourself. Explaining to you 2 different scenarios. If you get a sponsorship, so a sponsorship is basically when you find a job before relocating. So then your sponsor, the person that has then employed you, will pay for not really everything. They don't really pay for everything. I think they pay for like about 80% of everything, and I'll explain how that happens. And then if you're going to be applying independently without a sponsor or anything, this is like for your permanent residency visa, you're going to be paying for literally everything. So I'm going to be sharing tips on how to fund your migration dream, your relocation dream. If your dream is to go anywhere in this world, even if it's not Australia, it is like your Canada, Asia. Well, Asia, is it a country? Or I don't know. Anywhere you want to go, America, anywhere you want to go, you need to know, or you are going to need money. Regardless of the situation, you are going to need money for this. So how much are you going to need? Where are you going to get that money? What are the options that are there for you? When are you going to need that money in this process? And how to maybe save as much as you can. Because I love savings. Anything that's going to save me money. I'm very attracted to it. Like a mosquito. I fly there. Right now, let's focus on the money that you're going to need during the process of applying for a visa, during the process of applying for whatever that you're going to need to apply for to come here. So let's start with number 1. So number 1, what you're going to need to pay for. First and foremost, before anything, before anybody. And this is even if you've got an agent or not. That's why I'm saying it is best that you don't have an agent, so that you can then save money for this process, because you are going to need it in the long run. So if you've got an agent, you'll be paying this amount plus the amount that the agent is going to be charging you. So the first thing that you're going to be paying for is the skills assessment. So in my previous video, I explained a bit briefly, and I'm also going to explain briefly what the skills assessment is, because I'm going to be uploading another video that's going to be talking about skills assessment specifically, where to go, where to find it, and all of that. But in this, for the purpose of this video, what I'm going to do at the end, I'm going to be putting a link to the Australian Home Affairs website, so that you guys can then start familiarizing yourself with it. So when I start then to go into the whole spiel about what's going on, you'll follow, because you'll have like a kind of like an idea. So number 1, the first thing that you're going to need, Vele, is to pay for your skills assessment. So your skills assessment is basically you saying to Australia, look, I've got this skill, I've got this degree, and I've acquired this degree here, and this is what I've done, and I can use my skills in your country. So they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, let's see if really. So it's not always guaranteed that your assessment is going to come out positive. It is the most scariest thing ever. I remember when I did mine. So with me, I'm a social worker. So the association that I use is Australian Association for Social Worker or something like that. It's AASW. I remember that part. So basically you compile all your documents. I'll be going into the whole process later on, but you'll basically be compiling all your documents and everything for them, and then you're going to be sending it through to them, and then you pay a certain amount. So with me and my husband, it was very different. With my husband, he's a vet, so he needed to do the skills assessment first, number 1. So I think he did that with the Australian Vet Board or something like that. And then after they approved his skills to say, okay, fine, you can practice as a vet here, he needed to also pay the council. So I know for the first process for him, he had 2 separate stages, which was for him to pay for the assessment, for him to say, okay, yeah, your skills are okay, you can use them here. He paid, I think, about 8,000 to 9,000 rands. So in Australian dollars, that would be about 900 Australian dollars. And later on, when he then paid for his registration for the board, for the one that governs veterinarians here, I think he paid about 3 or 4,000, almost like 4,000 rands. So that's about 400 Australian dollars. So all in all, for my husband, for his skills assessment and being registered here in Australia as a vet, he had to pay about 13,000. This was like back in 2018. These prices change all the time. It is so unfortunate, especially with me, like in my profession as social workers. It is so unfortunate. When I did my assessment, it was in 2018 as well, and I paid around 9,000, around 9,000. As I said, it's like around 800 to 900 Australian dollars. And the month that, I think it was 2 or 3 months after I had done my assessment and everything and sent all my documents and paid the money, they changed their fees. They had doubled. So now when you go onto the website, it's like about, well, if you are like registering outside of Australia, so there are different prices. If you're registering when you're inside Australia, it's a different price. When you're registering when you're outside of Australia, it's a different price. So if you're outside of Australia, at this point in time right now as a social worker, instead of paying 9,000 rands that I had paid at that point in time, you're going to be paying about 18,000 rands. Terrible. So terrible. And that's why it's very important for you guys to do this as soon as possible, because points are going up. It's becoming more difficult for people to relocate here because they know that there are a lot of people that want to come here. So the borders are really tightening. It's very bad. And especially when you look at the rand and what's going on, it keeps falling, and which makes it very difficult for you to kind of like, pay all these things. So that's why just capitalize on this thing right now, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 years. You don't know what's going to happen in the next coming months. So engineers have their own board, medical people have their own board. So I think it's like Australian medical something. So for like nurses, radiographers, whatever that's in like the medical field, we've got then one for then social workers, we've got one then for veterinarians, we've got one for like plumbers. Like there's just like a lot that are there that then do the assessment. They've got their different prices. So expect anything from like about 500 Australian dollars, because they want you to pay in Australian dollars. So you'll just be converting according to the currency of your country. But it's anything from about, I could say anything from about 500 Australian dollars to about 2,500 Australian dollars. So if you look at it in rands, it's going to be about 5,000 to about 25,000. So just look for anything between that. Sometimes in the skills assessment, they will want for you to prove that you can speak English, right? So I almost had to do an English test at that point in time. So just a couple of pointers, ne? We're going to be going into the English test later on in other videos. But just so you know, I would advise you to not write an English test in the beginning, because the problem with the English test is that it's got it's valid for about a year, depending on the English test that you're going to be taking. But I think in Australia, they want your English test to be within a time frame of a year. So if you do your English test in the beginning of the process, later on when you're going to be then applying for a visa, you are going to need an English test. So that means you're going to be writing it twice. And English tests are not only expensive, but they are difficult. We'll talk about it. It was the most traumatic thing ever. So my advice is don't write an English test immediately, because you don't know when you're going to then be eligible for a visa. So if you write an English test in the beginning, you'll be paying so much money that you're going to be paying again later on. So my advice is hold up a bit on the English test. You'll do it later. Also, there's a little bit nitty-gritties of getting data to like communicate with these people, getting a computer that's going to be working, like internet access. Those are little things that you never really think about, but they're also going to cost you, because you're going to need data for this thing. And also watching Promise, I mean, you're going to need data to see me. So budget that as well. So try and use everything. As I said in my last video, look at your table, look at what you served on your table and use it. So yes, data, skills assessment. Those are the two things, right? So yes, number 3 then is then the English test, where, as I've explained to you, if you are smart enough, don't do it in the beginning, do it at the end. At the end. So there are a number of different English tests that are approved by the Australian government. So you just need to be very careful before you book your English test. So there is PTE. That's the one that my husband and I took. I'll be talking about it and giving you tips on how to pass them, because the Australian government website will guide you to the one that you will need to write. But the approved one and the ones that are used often are the PTE, is the PTE one, and the IELTS one. We did not take the IELTS one because, why didn't we take the IELTS one? I don't even remember. I think we heard that it was difficult. So we were like, what is the second option? Like PTE, like that one. Take that one. The PTE prices really range from, it really depends on where you are in this world. I know in South Africa, at the time when we took our test in 2018, it was around 2,000, 3,000, between 2,000 and 3,000. So for my husband and I, that would have been about 6,000, right? Put together. But if you're going to be taking it when you're here in Australia, it's a different price. If you're going to be taking it when you're somewhere else, it's really like the prices range. So prepare for about 3,000, 4,000 for the PTE. But also another thing that you need to know with the PTE or the IELTS test or whatever, sometimes you need to pay extra because you need to prepare for the test. It's not just English. It's not just English, it is English. So with PTE and IELTS, I know that they do have, they sell packages where they can like sell to you some study materials. You don't really need to buy them because they're so expensive. So you just need to read a dictionary. You're going to need them, but you don't really need them. So to save money, just try and use whatever that you've got and try to stay away from buying those study materials. But if you feel that you're really going to need those study materials and you can't risk then paying for the test over, because this is the thing again, and I'm going to be going into it in other videos about the English test. There are scores that you need to get in order to qualify for certain visas. So with us, we did not need to get exceptional marks. We did not need to get high points. All we just needed to prove is that we know English. That's it. So prepare, and also just prepare extra money just in case you fail. But I think if you really want to do this because you're serious and you know that you are not going to fail because you don't have the money, you must really prepare. So you must really prepare for this test so that you don't have to pay again. So where are we now? Data. So let's say you budget about 3,000, 4,000 rands for data for this whole process, because there's a lot of back and forth. With my estimates, I'm going to be looking at it as a family, but I can split it. You will split it individually. Like if you're single, you'll just find what suits your situation, because in other people's cases, it will be the mom, the dad, and the children, right? So it really depends on your individual circumstance as a person. If you're single, just -1 when I'm calculating. If you're a couple, good, because then it's just like me and my husband. If you've got other adults in your family that are also going to be doing this, you're gonna then have to add them as I'm going and as I'm calculating. So you're going to need, number one, the assessment, data and resources and matlokotlokones that you're going to need. So budget about 4,000 or 5,000 rand with that. And then also the English test. So that is number 3. So number 4 is something that goes back to the skills assessment. So in Australia, they don't want you to email, but I don't know, I'm not too sure with other, with other assessing authorities. They wanted us to send through via mail all our documents. The reason why they want original copies, certified, to make sure that people are not robbing the system, because people rob the system where they're going to be sending fake documents. So I think this is the way in which Australia has figured, okay, maybe we can try and minimize that by seeing these documents live. So you're gonna have to then budget also sending the documents via post. It's very dependent on the time frame that you want. So if you want fast mail, it's going to be more expensive. It depends on which post office you are at and where in the world. So if you're going to want it to be quicker, you're going to want like a fast mail. So that's going to be more expensive. I remember with us, I think we paid about almost 1,000. I think, am I wrong? I might be wrong, but I think we paid almost like 1,000, 1 point something. But there are other postal services like your DHL and all of that you can use, but it's really dependent on what you are comfortable with using and what's going to be efficient, cheap. Well, with posting this, I would really recommend for you to not go for the cheapest, because that's very dangerous, especially with important documents. And when you want them to get here, you need to find something that's going to be able to track your documents. So budget about 1,000 to 2,000. No, not really. It really depends on your situation, but budget about 1,000 plus minus 1,000 for your postage. So this is the only one time that you are going to be sending documents to Australia during the skills assessment process. So it goes all together. So when you look at the skills assessment process, you must think of the actual money that's going to go into the assessment and the money to post your documents. I'm not too sure about other professions if they do the same thing, but I think they probably do the same thing. But you'll have to then check with the Australian government. So number 5, one thing that you're going to need again during this process is a police clearance. So this is basically to say that you don't have offending tendencies. You are a law-abiding citizen, allegedly. In South Africa, that was a nightmare because we had to wait months. I remember when I did mine, it was a long, daunting, stupid process that I just didn't understand why. So we had to do like a whole back and forth to Pretoria, because apparently you could do it in Siyabuswa and then you would get it in Siyabuswa. But somehow they changed that at that point in time. I hope this has changed. But at that point in time, they said, no, you send the information to Siyabuswa police station, the Siyabuswa police station that takes it to Pretoria, and then you don't go to Pretoria anymore to collect it. You need to collect it in Siyabuswa. And I'm like, first of all, they don't even have transport to go attend to a robbery. Where will they get the transport to go to Pretoria to fetch these things? It was hell. It was hell. So I'm hoping in whatever country that you are in, just try and navigate to see before you go into this. Just go to your local police station and ask them, how can I get a police clearance? And just pray that they don't stress you like they did with us. It was so difficult. So you're going to need that police clearance. I would not advise you to do it until you are in the middle of your process. Like, this is when your skills assessment came back positive and now you need to move on to the next step. So basically, don't do the police clearance right now because it expires. So if it expires, and you're still in the process and you've not yet been granted a visa, you're going to have to do that again. So just so you save money and you don't go back and forth again, just try and do it after your skills have been assessed and approved, and now you are accredited. You can now start looking for a job here in Australia. So that's when you can then do it in order to prepare for your visa application. We spent for the police clearance, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm not lying, it might have been about 100 and something rands in dollars, in Australian dollars. That would be like $10, $15. Yes, so budget around there. I think it depends. I don't know if the prices have gone up or not, but I think at the time we paid around 100 and something for it. So yes, you do have to pay for it. The other thing that you're going to be paying for that you should be very mindful for is the actual visa, right? So it's really dependent on which visa you're going to be going for. My husband and I, we paid for only one visa, the permanent residency visa, right? And that one costs a lot. It is so expensive to do a permanent residency in Australia. But there's so many benefits in having a permanent residency visa, because then you can live in Australia for however long you want, and it's your pathway into getting citizenship. We'll go into it later on. We got so lucky. My husband got a job before we came to Australia. So we were sponsored. So if you're sponsored, you save so much money. But there are certain things that you're still going to pay for. So the sponsorship, what they basically paid for was our visa, our flights, as well as our first month in Australia. But the other things we had to pay for, right? I'll be going into the prices later. Let me go into this first. The one last thing that you're going to need before applying for a visa is medicals. So you're going to need to do your medicals. So what medicals are is basically saying that I'm healthy, I'm good, because I think the Australian government does not want to burden themselves with your health problems. So it's done. I know we did it in Pretoria. So we paid how much? I think all in all together, because they test for like your HIV, because in Australia they don't allow you to come here if you've got HIV, which is so sad. Especially when you look at how many people in Africa have HIV. It's so terrible, so terrible. They look at other diseases as well that they hope will not spread here. So your TB and all of that. You can't do this at any normal doctor. So you can't pay with this with your medical aid. There's certain places in where you can have these tests done. We did them in Pretoria. When I talk about the medicals later on, I'll be leaving a link to where you can then do these tests. I think the information is also, you Google it. Like, you can Google it, because this is the same place where people go for their medicals when they have to travel, for traveling like abroad. Like, you want to go visit Paris, and they're like, no, we want medicals first before you come in. So you go there. For people that have been traveling the world, they know where to find it. But me, I did not know. For a family of 4, because it was me, my husband, and my 2 daughters. So it with kids, it's not they with kids. So the reason why the price varies is because adults have different tests done, where children have different tests as well. So it really depends on your individual situation. If you're alone, you'll be paying less. If it's a family of 2, you'll be paying less. If you're a family of 5, 10, 3,000, you'll be paying more. So I think we paid roughly, I think about 4,000. I think we paid about 4,000 for our medicals. I might be lying, but I think it was around there. It was not more than 5,000 that we paid for. So this is the thing that you do last. This is when, and you can't do your medicals without a number that you get from the Australian government. So you have to wait. Don't do you can't do medicals now, because you need a certain number that identifies you. So it's kind of like the Australian government now recognize you, and they know that you are coming here. So you are coming to Australia. So they'll then be saying, okay, this is the number that you're going to need to give to your doctor. You don't even get the results yourself. The doctor will then be sending the results to Australia. So it's the last process. So just to recap a bit, you're going to need money for skills assessment, posting the documents for your skills assessment, data money, internet access money, English test, police clearance, medicals, and then your visa. If you get a job here, try to negotiate, and we'll be talking about it later on. Try to negotiate for your job to pay for everybody, because some jobs will be like, no, we're only paying for you. So you must tell them, I'm not coming alone. I'm coming with these people, because they're gonna try and like juda you. No, you don't allow them. You say, I'm coming with these people. I'm not coming until, because as much as you need them, they need you too. So don't give in. If they're going to tell you, no, we can only pay for your visa, tell them, I can't do that. Even though you know you don't mean it. Try to just see. Another thing as well, even when you do get sponsored, sometimes your sponsor will say to you no, because sometimes sponsors don't trust that the people that they're talking to on the other side of the country, on the other side of the world, are real. So they'll tell you, okay, no, you pay for everything, pay for your flights, pay for your visas and everything, and then we will reimburse you. That's what they did with us. They were like, okay, you've got a budget, this is how much you can spend, and then you keep all the receipts and everything. So the minute you land here in Australia, we reimburse you. So that is, it really depends on the company that's going to be hiring you. Sometimes they do send the money to you, but it really depends on what you negotiate with them. So we were smart in our processing, because we knew that we wanted to be here long term. So we tried by all means to do this process simultaneously. So we were looking for jobs while also pushing the process of a permanent residency, which kind of increased our chances of getting a visa and coming to Australia. We knew for sure we wanted to come to Australia. So we were like, okay, fine, let's do this. If you don't get a job, what is option B? So you just try to maximize your options as much as possible. So we actually spent so much money towards the end of the process, because we had to pay for the TSS one, which is the sponsored visa, as well as the permanent residency visa. So we had to like put everything in it. So we paid, I think for the TSS at the time, it was like around, because we had like everyone in it, I think it was like around, it is not expensive, it is not as expensive as the permanent residency visa. I think it was around 30,000. 30, I think 30,000. And then for the permanent residency visa, at the time, I think we paid around 60,000, almost 70,000 for us as a family of 4. But at the moment, as a family of 4, you would have to pay 80,000 rands, around 90,000 rands, depending on how far the rent has fallen. Because in Australian dollars, it is 8,000 Australian dollars if you want a permanent residency. The nice thing again, though, is that the Australian government website has a calculator for you to estimate how much you should be expecting to pay. So that's the nice thing about it. So you guys go in there and check with your own individual situation how much it's gonna cost you. So all the prices and everything are on the internet. Really, you don't need to listen to me lying. Me and my husband and them babies, before coming to Australia, this is excluding flights, right? We paid around, let me see, 109,000. Yes, is it 109,000? Is that the right way of saying it? Yes, 109,000 rands. It is so hard relocating here because you're going to need a lot of money. So imagine if you're going to be using an agent, you're going to be paying 11,000 as a family, right? I don't know how it's going to be for an individual person because we did not do for individuals. We did as a family. It might be cheaper, but I don't think it would be too far-fetched from the amount that we paid. Maybe, I don't even think it is going to be less than half of that because these things are so expensive. So maybe as a single person, try to budget around 50,000-60,000. That. So, mind you, I have not even mentioned flight tickets. Lucky enough for me and my husband, we were so smart about this. We got sponsored. So we didn't have to cough out the money for flights ourselves. The company that had hired my husband paid for it. But if you're not going to be coming here with a job and you're not going to be sponsored, that's another thing that you're going to have to then budget for, the flights coming here. Okay, sometimes also the government will want you to have a certain amount of money, even if it's not in your account but in assets that you can use to prove that, okay, even when I come to Australia, I will not be a burden. I'll be able to afford my own lifestyle there. There's just them covering their bases because they don't want to fight with you about poverty and all of that because they don't like it. Lucky enough, yes, we did pay for our own flights, but we got reimbursed that money because we were smart about it. You gotta be smart about these things. So, where are you going to get this money? I know it's it's a worry. Of course, it is a worry. There's a lot of sacrifices that are going to go into this whole process, and you need to be so aligned with yourself and your finances. You must be so comfortable with money. You and money must have this communication and this language that is just so harmonious because you're going to need money for this. For me, I just feel like there are so many options, right? You look at your table, you look at what you've got. If you need to sell something, sell it. If you need to sell something, sell it. Borrowing money should be the last option. But the greatest thing about borrowing money is that you must be sure that you are leaving South Africa. So even when you go to the bank to borrow money, you know that the minute you come here and you start making the dollars, you start making the money, you first start by paying the money that you owe them so that you can enjoy your dollars in peace. So the flights to Australia, it really depends on the time of the year. At the time when we relocated, it was in January. It was just after the festive season. So the flights were very expensive at the time. I think we paid around, if I'm not lying, around 20,000-30,000 for flights. Am I lying? Because it was one-way tickets. We did not do returns because we were not coming back. One-way ticket, Baba. Initially, like when you're doing the process, try to not exhaust your resources and your funds because you're going to need a huge chunk at the end. What we did in order for us to then have that huge chunk, we sold our cars. We sold everything that needed to be sold, Baba. We needed to sell we didn't sell our house because it's still on sale. For me, look, all your options, lay them down. Have them flat on the floor. What do I have? What don't I have? Okay, what can I use? what can't I use. If it's going to require for you to do a loan, do it. If it's going to require for you to sit your family down and be like, hey, auntie, please give me 1,000 rands. S1 please give me this. Try and do it, you know, and be serious, because you can't leave this process halfway, because now you would have wasted so much money. Making mistakes is going to be so costly. So you have to make sure that you pass the English test. You have to make sure that the police clearance comes out okay. You have to make sure that the assessment comes out okay. You have to make sure. And if you can't risk it, then you would then have to then talk to an agent. But one thing that I will tell you, an agent will not help you with getting a positive assessment. They won't help you with it. It's all up to you. They won't even tell you what documents you need to do. You need to send, because they don't know. They just know you need to send them. They will tell you the name of it, and as I told you, the name you will find on the internet. So that's what you're going to be paying them for. So even having an agent is not going to guarantee that you're going to save money or you're going to get positive outcomes. So just make sure that you know your story and you know what you do. Back to my first video where I'm telling you guys, you must be sure. You must know why you're doing this, because you're going to go all in. Body, mind, spirit, ancestors, demons, everything. You're going to be going all in. So you must be ready, because this thing is not only financially taxing, it is emotionally taxing, physically taxing, relationshipically taxing, everything, taxing, it taxes you everywhere. By the time you get to the end process, you are so thin. I don't know how I did not lose weight. You are so stressed. You just want to get into the plane and run away. In the beginning process, try to get a little bit loans here and there in the beginning, just here and there. Look at your finances, how you spend money. Don't go to Durban July anymore. Don't go out to Chisampama anymore. Save your weekend money. Don't go out drinking. Don't buy that Nike shoe. Don't do it. Don't go out with your friends. Now you are eating pap and milk because you're saving up for this. So you do what you need to do. If you know that you're not from the Motsepe family, you have to make sure that you sort out your finances real good, because you are going to need those resources at the end process. So my advice for you is sell whatever you can sell. Don't sell everything. Don't go all in the beginning, as I've explained to you. Go all in at the end, when you've got your invitations to visas, when you've got a job, when you've got all of that ready, and they're like, okay, because the big chunks of money is gonna come out at the end. So you just need to keep in mind that, okay, about 100,000 is gonna come out here as a family. So where are we going to get that money? If you've got any more questions and anything that you're struggling with or anything that you're confused about, please write it on the comment section. I'll try to engage with you as much as I can. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment, to share this information with anyone that you feel might need it, and we'll see what we can do. So I'll be seeing you guys next week, same time, same place. Take care, save money, stop bad money habits. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. Leave it alone, because you're going to need that money, okay? And if you can't manage your money right now in South Africa, money management won't start in Australia. You'll be too shocked, because now you can't manage money. So you have to make sure everything is aligned, okay? And I'll see you again next week. Bye.